les gens et le professeur, peut-être si quelqu'un veut noter. PowerPoint, si quelqu'un le veut. Non, que le
Mais c'est pas de texte. C'est un autre discours, c'est parce qu'on a demandé celui d'Alain hier. Et ça, je ne...
Ça va, on va aller.
Bon. Bonjour à tous. Rebonjour à tous. On va vous demander de prendre place. Attirer ceux qui sont dehors à l'intérieur, peut-être. On va tester les traductions. Alors d'abord...
Le 12, c'est l'italien, italien-français aujourd'hui.
Est-ce que cela fonctionne, le 12?
Et tout d'abord, aussi les francophones, ils ont besoin des écouteurs maintenant, parce qu'on va parler aussi en italien et en néerlandais.
Donc c'est surtout dans les moments de dialogue ici dans la salle. Ce qu'on vous demandera à ceux qui posent des questions, c'est de d'abord dire votre langue et de marquer une petite pause. Comme ça, chacun a le temps de régler ses écouteurs. Et pour la traduction, ce sera alors plus simple de savoir de quelle langue à quelle langue ils doivent traduire.
Voilà. Donc,
We are connected to the right
italien,
channel.
français, 13 néerlandais
So 13
et
is
14
Dutch,
anglais.
14
Est-ce que
is
les traductions
English.
ils fonctionnent bien maintenant?
Does it work, please?
Chacun, il entend? Oui.
Does it work? The Spanish,
Bien. L'espagnol, le
does it
serbe
work?
aussi, c'est parfait.
Serbian works. Okay,
On
good.
s'améliore. Le premier coup, c'est parfait. Voilà.
So everything
Merci à la
seems to be
traduction
working
et à l'organisation.
fine. Sorry. Well,
Alors, maintenant, on continue avec des expériences. On a d'abord 2 expériences
okay, let's continue.
dans le cadre de la recherche de Anouk. Et là, on demandera à Maxime et Herman de venir sur le
experiences.
podium.
Maxime
Et
and
Anouk
Herman
aussi qui
are invited
va
to join us here.
diriger
Anouk, of
cette,
course,
cette partie
you're
de
also
notre
welcome.
programme aujourd'hui.
Et donc Maxime parlera
So
en
Maxime will be
français
speaking French.
et Herman
Herman
parlera en italien.
Will be talking Italian.
Francophone, quand vous le voyez prendre son micro, vous mettez vos écouteurs. Merci.
Ça marche. Bonjour à tous, merci pour l'invitation.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation, and sorry if I'm not a perfect speaker because I'm not used to that kind of exercise. But anyway, I'll explain first how I got here. Last year I was looking for a research topic. I do management and business and economy studies at university. I was looking for something slightly different and a bit innovative, which is why I started looking into this issue of economy of communion, and then through Anouk and through some other people, we decided to do what I do now, meaning research on the economy of communion, which has led me to South America, Argentina, Paraguay, and Brazil also.
Quel était le but du jeu? C'était de comprendre un peu ce qu'était l'économie de communion.
The whole exercise aimed at me understanding better what is the economy of communion, because it's been described many times, theoretically speaking at least. If you go on the internet, you'll see a lot of people explaining what it is, and it's described usually as an economy that is different, that places human beings at the core, at the center of everything. But I felt that was maybe, a bit simple, and I wanted to go there to see. I am not a religious person. I don't belong to the Focolari. I know nothing about all that. What I wanted to do was use my university background and my university approach to describe those companies. I visited 3. One of them is Herman's
Puis deux
company.
autres, moi je vais donner leur vrai nom parce que quitte à être là, autant leur faire de la pub. Donc il y avait Todo Brillo
And then
au Paraguay.
two other companies, one called Todo Brillo in Paraguay,
Et Pasticino,
cleaning
une autre
company,
entreprise de Herman.
and Pasticino, which is also a company of Herman, of course very bad,
Des gâteaux, voilà.
and they make cakes.
Et donc en fait voilà, je suis un peu parti là-bas en cherchant une définition.
So my point
de
of
l'économie de communion.
going there was to try and define the economy of communion. It's taken me 6 months, I still haven't got a
Un
definition,
petit peu ce que j'en ai retiré en termes de
but I
définition
can maybe
universitaire
share
de ce que pourrait être l'économie de communion.
a few ideas and a few conclusions of my research there.
En allant demander un peu aux gens, pour vous, c'est quoi l'économie de communion?
Now, what is the economy of communion? When we ask people that
Ce qui est
question,
important dans économie de communion, c'est
the
le mot
big problem with the concept of
D'accord.
economy of communion
Alors,
is the
je
word
vais
communion.
revenir à moi dans la communion quand j'étais tout petit.
You know, when I was a kid, communion was
etc.
going to mass and, well,
C'est quoi? De la vente d'hosties.
eating something. So I don't think the economy of communion is
Qu'est-ce que ça peut vouloir dire faire communion?
selling bread within churches, but
Donc, c'est ça
we
que je vais
felt
chercher.
it was necessary to identify the meaning of the word communion,
Et là, je suis rentré dans une entreprise qui était
which
très
is what I
différente
did.
par la taille.
I tried to visit companies, 3 companies that were very different, doing
Du coup,
different
je suis allé- j'ai vu
jobs
beaucoup de différences.
with
Je vais
different
commencer par les
sizes.
différences. Globalement, on
What
pouvait-
I want to do is
Ça fait
first
entre une vision
tell you
interne
what
et une
are
vision externe de l'économie.
the differences, and particularly the different vision, external and internal. The external vision is what you find on the internet,
Classique, presque classique.
and the external vision of
Maximiser mon profit,
such a company
pouvoir
is
le redonner, le redistribuer en dehors de l'entreprise.
I am in the economy of communion when I'm a company, I am making profit and I'm sharing profit.
On va faire communion.
But I'm sharing profit in a different way compared to a classical company that
Avec cet argent, s'investir
means you actually share that money with people around you and you invest that money within your company. That's
interne qui est moins
the
connue,
external vision. Now, the internal vision of such a company,
à Todo Brillo, l'entreprise
much less known. If you go to Todo Rio in Paraguay, 750 workers, you have a very internal
à
vision
savoir que c'est une
of that
entreprise qui cherche
economy.
pas à faire du
It's a
profit.
company that is not looking to make profit.
Donc,
So it's a company that's not looking at
j'en ai plus.
making
Une
profit,
vision plus interne de l'économie de communion. Donc, avant d'arriver à ce résultat, qui n'est du coup
or
plus le
to
but du jeu, c'est pas d'arriver à
rephrase
faire du
that.
profit.
Since
C'est
the
comment est-ce
point
qu'on
is
va
not
gérer
to
l'entreprise
make
avant.
profit,
Donc en fait, c'est une
you
redéfinition
manage
de
the
la chaîne de
company in a
valeur
different way.
qui est plus en amont.
Since
Au
the
niveau
end objective is not profit,
accepter une multitude de coûts qu'une
you
entreprise qui cherche à maximiser
accept,
son
for
résultat,
example, that
ça
certain
pas à même
costs
d'accepter. Et donc, en l'occurrence, ça passait
can be
par
borne by the
un
company.
accompagnement des salariés qui a un prix.
A normal company
Le fait
would
de leur
not
donner la parole,
sometimes
qui a aussi un
allow
prix, un coût.
certain costs
Le fait de les former,
to increase
le fait de leur
because
apporter
it
une
would
assistance
eat into your
sociale, de
profit
leur
margin.
apporter une
But in a
complémentaire
company like that,
de leur
you
permettre
agree
de-
to spend money,
de travailler à mi-temps,
to
ce
have
qui est parfois
expenses,
très compliqué.
to, for example, spend money on training your workers or on providing them with a health insurance scheme, or to listen to them, because it takes time to listen to people. Many companies can't do that or don't want to do that. But if your end objective is not just pure profit, then you can do that, and you don't have this obligation to always maximize your profit. That in itself was interesting for me as an economist. And of course, you need the right balance between the internal and the external vision. Herman's company is in between. And it all, of course, depends on the choices that you make as a company manager. It also depends on the kind of company. If you're a bank, obviously the banking activity implies you hire certain staff, certain people, trained people in the bank, but you can hire non-trained or very low qualified people in other activities, such as cake making or cleaning up companies. So the economy of communion is, yes, business, but you're not making business just for yourself, and in the way you do business, you integrate other people. So you need to be involved with other people. Now, of course, after the word communion, there's another word there that we need to talk about, which is economy. Economy, of course, is key here. If we summarize the last 400 years of history and we say there's either a vision of the economy that is either capitalistic or communist, well, as an economic agent, you make choices, and under the capitalist system, the market will make everything work. So you make, let's say, economic choices, and you impose that onto the individual, meaning you put the company at the forefront of everything, and you impose the well-being of the company onto individual workers in a given society, or even individual citizens. Within the economy of communion, it's a different approach. You don't just think about the company or yourself, you talk and you think and you look at the whole of society and how the company can do well both for itself but also for the whole of society. So it gives you the ability to be free, which is one of the main characteristics of capitalism, but at the same time you give the priority to the collective dimension of society and not just the company or its shareholders. And just to, I'm near at the end of the time ahead. I think the economy of communion gives hope because it shows that you can live the economy in a different way. Now, it doesn't work all the time, of course, because all companies can have problems and can go bust and can, go bankrupt every day. It happens, but it can happen, and it is doable. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak, even though he's used all of my time. No, more seriously, let's move to the next presentation. My name is Germán, I come from Argentina. And indeed I own a company. We distribute building materials, so we work in the construction sector. I am, as you can see on the pictures there, this is what we do, this is the company. We're not a retail company, we do bulk sales mostly of construction materials. Now you see there also one important aspect on the right hand side, which is the inflation and the fact that when the company started, I think we grew quite well. You can see that the company sort of has increasing sales, and this because at the time we were fully involved within this economy of communion. I'll explain what we mean by that. It means, in our case, that we take care not just of ourselves, but also of the others. Now, that means that all the branches that we have are trying to operate within what we call a virtuous circle. So we do what we have to do as a company, but we look towards the others, and the others look after us, meaning by looking after our people, they actually bring customers and clients to us, and that makes the whole company work better, because every single subsidiary or branch is operating and bringing in new clients. We are one of the biggest companies in the country in terms of cement sales. We're very, as you can see, I don't know if you can read that, but the figures there show how we've increased, and we've increased the figures were in euro, but we've increased the number of workers, we've increased the volume of sales. And I don't have much time to talk about everything, but this is what I want to focus on. This is what's happening outside of the company, and this is how we contribute to the overall life around us. This is how we increase the company profit. You can see here how we try to disseminate this culture of giving, of sharing, and as you can see, we are now acting as a sort of incubator. We are helping our staff, our people, and other people move towards that new type of economy. And you can see it's impacting many different stakeholders outside of the actual company. This is mostly what happened at the very beginning. We're now involved in Peru, for example. We are part of a development project there with NGOs, including one in Luxembourg. We're also involved in a development project of the poorest neighborhood of the city where we are based. And we feel this is part of what we have to do. We are building, of course, the infrastructure by being a construction company, but it's also important to help people, live better. And in that neighborhood, the sewage system doesn't really work. People have not access to toilets, to running water. So we try to work on that and to help them. And we also try to maintain that sort of approach when we interact with public bodies and public authorities. We do that through an NGO, which brings together the key companies of the region. I am now the vice president of that NGO/association of companies. I was asked also to be the president until April, but I was unable to accept that responsibility because I'm a very busy person. So we work with this NGO. This NGO contributes to sharing our ideas and our principles. We work with some, public authorities, including the Ministry of Labour. With them we have a project on eliminating child work. We've also got another regional project in place which aims at setting up a sort of social guidance and advisory system, so we give advice to people. We've also got a project with about 1,000 small producers, so it's a sort of sales network for small products, but we work also upstream of selling, which is we work on the certification of what is produced, and there's a very social dimension to it. We've also got in Argentina, in the region where we are, we have what we call the Global Pact or the Global Covenant on within that we do social work, we fight corruption, and it's important also to understand that of course money is important in those projects and we need money to do the work that we do, but what we try to do there is mostly we dedicate time to this whole work. Now, earlier we were talking about giving and this culture of giving. Argentina is a country where we have a culture, a culture that is just like in many other countries, a culture not orientated towards giving. But now we have managed to start activating this new vision. We organize 2 big events every year. We help young people participate to the so-called youth school system that we've set up. We train our workers, and we try to do what we can with the money we have, even though we don't always have enough money to do everything we would want to do. But we organize also to disseminate this particular idea of the economy of communion, and we try to share our experience. We've also invested money in other companies. In 2008, we started trying to set up other companies in other parts of the region and in other employment basins. We have set up a company that now makes cookies and biscuits. We've got a few employees working there. We are now actually supplying companies like Starbucks and other coffee chains in the country. And then we've got another company that was set up with a local development project where we produce and sell capers. Okay, that's in the poorest country, part of the country, region of the country. So capers production, and you can see a picture there where you see well, we see a production company there with people producing, of course, also other agricultural goods. We have cattle breeders in Argentina, as you know, and we try to help him in his work. Then there's another company that manufactures sailboats, catamarans, so multi. I mean, a system that's based on various phases, because when you set up such a company, you need, of course, first to design the plants and then start manufacturing them. So we've invested also in that particular business. And since 2007, we've also become more involved in building activities, so not only as a supplier of construction and building materials, but also we actually build buildings. We've got all other services that have been set up. We've got guidance and advisory services. We've got economic and other loan, for example, services and products that are in place. We've also, as I said, been working with the national institutions, the public authorities, and there again we've set up some projects together with them. And I think this is key, because that kind of project is very important. It is key to make sure that if you design a project, of course that project has to exist in, let's say, in a way that doesn't produce dependence relationship. We need cooperation. That's the type of relationship that we want. No one should be dependent on anyone else. There should be cooperation. So whenever we come up with a project, we try to make sure that we are not depending on anybody, and no one should be depending on us. We try to work with people, with authorities, with institutions, on the basis of an equal footing, if you want. And everybody can contribute something. It's also important to set up a social capital network to be truly able to meet other possible needs that might emerge. So through this economy of communion, we believe that poverty is not due to a lack of means, it's due to a lack of relationships. And that's why we need contacts. We need people to enter into relationship with others. This is another project that we have set up for small farmers and mostly people who raise goats and sheep. We've got other projects. Every year, for example, we propose or we offer partners who have cattle breeding activities, we give them support for the reproduction of their herd. So they have access, for example, to a good breeding stock. And if you look at what's there, you see also that we do work on the issue of waste treatment. We also organize something that is extremely important, which is kindergarten services. Because if you work, obviously, you can't take care of your children. So when we create a company like this one, where people will be working, it's a waste treatment facility. At the same time, we set up a crèche or a kindergarten or a sort of daycare center for children, so that people can go to work and leave their kids there. We've also got, in setting this up, of course, we provide the contacts that people need. We get people together. People who want to work for us get trained. And we end up with a company that hopefully works quite well. We've also been looking at, for example, building bathrooms in some of the people's houses. So if you work there, you can benefit at a later stage from certain services, and then everything is then certified. So we certified all this. I mean, we've got that to be certified. Then, of course, anytime we do something like that, we produce also a report. The report is then approved. So we try to improve also the living conditions in Peru. I said we had activities in Peru. We try, for example, to work there with another project with drug addicts, young drug addicts. We've got another project there. I mean, that project initially was financed through the US, but then we've had to reorganize the funding structure because the US withdrew.
So we have other instruments here, instruments which were put at our disposal. People are living in difficulties, in difficult situation daily, and so we have to see what we want to do ourselves. We also have representatives of Focolari. They have put money at their disposals, or instruments, tools, labor force, and we have a foundation also which has participating in the building of a school. There was no roof, so we had funds to build the roof of that school. So this is more or less what we are doing with the profit we can get. Okay?
Merci Maxime. Merci.
Thank you very much, Herman, Maxime, thank you. Thank you also for everything you've told us. You told us that we can have the freedom not to maximize the profit. It's a big liberty, big freedom, and we like freedom in capitalism, of course, but freedom for common good. And so this is not being naive at all. Thank you for your vision. It's a great vision. Thank you, Herman. we can see what are the joy and the wealth of a gift given by an entrepreneur. And you also said that you want to give without creating dependency. And this is a good social balance that you have showed us. So thank you for your activity also. And now we have 20 minutes to discuss with the room. So on Anouk's research, Maxime's research, and also the experience of Herman. And we will have 20 minutes discussion with the room. So for practical reasons, please, before taking the floor, take a minute, please, and give your name and your language to facilitate the translation. So we have a microphone here. Who would like to start? Who would like to make a comment? Who would like to put a question? Who would like to add something? Who would like to share his or her experience? Or an experience in general?
En français.
In French. Frédéric in Walloon language, no, in French. And so, a short reflection, Herman. Thank you very much for your testimony. We come from France and we are quite proud. We think of François Neveu and we have the impression of seeing a new François Neveu, full of energy. I would like to know, fundamentally, what is the engine to your dynamism? So you are very passionate when you talk, so what has stimulated you? In 2007, in fact, my second child had a very serious accident, and doctors told me that there was nothing to do, that he was going to die, and the doctors were telling me that. Yes, that he was going to die, and this was very, very difficult for myself and my wife. I didn't know what to do. I was at a loss. I was spending hours at the hospital. I was waiting for hours. And I was waiting to see what was going to happen. And at that point, I realized that we have to love. When we are suffering, we have to love. And I shared this experience of love with the parents of other children who were there at the hospital next to me. And so I talked with those parents. I helped them. There were parents there who had just lost their daughter, and the woman didn't have enough money to bury her child, and I give her money. And after that, all my values in life were topsy-turvy. I mean, I didn't spend 10 hours of my day in my company any longer. No, I understood that my vocation was to, in fact, share this economy of communion. And that's where I understood that this was my vocation, and I decided to dedicate less time to work in my enterprise. I wanted to work more for the projects of the economy of communion. And that's the way it happened. It's not because I decided to launch a project to build the catamarans. No, not or to help farmers. Not at all. I didn't decide that. People came up to me, and so I listened to them, and I gave something to them. That's my secret. In fact, I realized that I couldn't feel good in any other way. So now I really feel absolutely fulfilled and happy. So I'm going to put a question to you in Dutch, no problem. So I hope I'm not going to create any problem, but I'm listening to testimonies, to figures, and there is a small problem in the room. Somebody cannot hear the translation. What language? So I can see fantastic figures there, and for other people, other organizations, and for smaller enterprises which are just starting, well, I see that they are not generating profit, that it's very difficult for them. I can think about farmers with 3 cows or other people who have a lot of problems. So how can they belong to this economic community? Yes, I had also prepared a video on this development project, and they're grouping more than 1,000 small producers. Those are producers who do not have enough to survive, but unfortunately I don't have enough time to show you this video. Nevertheless, later on when we come back to this room we can show you the video, and then you will see the faces of these people, and there's a song also. You can listen to the song, you can also read the words of the song, and it's a fantastic project, really. And the words of the song tells us to work together, to create a network, to work all together, and so to go forward all together. In this project, and thanks to this project, we were able to help producers, entrepreneurs, and we asked them to give something to other people in return. And so we give a contribution to people, but then those people were also giving a contribution later on. And so we were creating a circle, and it became some sort of a philosophy to explain and to transmit this economy of a communion in different structures. But there are also a few bad experiences. A small cooperative of citrus producers, well, they were able to export their production, so that was a very positive experience. Sometimes we have difficult experiences. I'm sorry for my Italian.
Nederlands, ja?
In Dutch?
Ja. Voilà, ik ben Geert uit België, van Sylvester.
Geert, and I come from Belgium. I have a question to put to Maxime. Maxime, it was very interesting to listen to what you told us. You talked about the economy of communion, the first time you heard about it, and do you have anything to tell us if we have to explain the specificity of the economy of communion in 1 minute to somebody who's not a believer of this economy? How can we explain this to the person in 1 minute? So what are the main lines of this? Yes, so you are going to see if I can explain it in 1 minute. Yes, that's what I was explaining to you. In fact, it is to make the economy, because everything is economic in the world. I mean, it's not if I look at my navel that the world is going to improve, not at all. The economy of communion has already shown that it is possible to succeed in business on the market. I mean, Argentina, we had the experiences of other countries, Peru, Argentina, the cake experience, etc., the cookies. And so you don't always need to maximize your own profit. No, It's, of course, the case for the boss, but also for all the other workers and for everybody on the market. We can have a vision which is broader than our own. So be happy by giving. And so sometimes it's more joyful to give a present than to get a present, because we are expecting to see the joy of the person to whom we are giving the gift, and this is very good, a good feeling. So you have so many different experiences. Thank you.
Donc je continue en français.
So I'll go on in French.
Petite question, mais
A short question for the three of you, for the three members of the panel.
l'esprit de l'économie de communion,
In this spirit of communion,
va aussi
there is a respect of the spirit of communion and respect of the competitor.
tout en maximisant évidemment
And of course, we want to maximize
l'entreprise dans ce qu'on essaie de
fiscally what we produce in the company, and we want to give to our workers. But at one point, we have to pay our taxes.
dans cette culture,
And in this culture, it is also a matter of saying that we think it's fair to pay our taxes, and
voilà, on n'a pas encore beaucoup parlé, donc
we haven't talked a lot about this. So it's this respect vis-à-vis competitors, vis-à-vis the state. So how do you see things?
du coup Anouk me souffle une bonne
Well, Anouk is whispering something to me. It's a very good answer. In Paraguay, there is a fiscal system
le paiement des
for the payment of social
et qui est assez
contributions, and it is quite strict. In fact, a worker who is not declared and who is not paying the social dues, I mean, I think that he has to work 40 hours a week. There are so many people working underground, and there is a very important black market. Half of the economy does not, in fact, pay for these social dues, and this is tertiary job. You have domestic workers, they work 3 hours here, 3 hours there, they are not being paid during their transport time, and it's difficult in Asunción to waste so much time in traffic jams, and so they are working many hours a week, but the person is then going to declare, well, it's a challenge for the company, declaring all the workers of the company, but so many of them are not working 48 hours. And in fact, a worker will work 30 hours, but will be declared for 48 hours. And so it's an enormous amount of money, and that you have to pay for this, and that company will have a zero profit level, because it is redistributing the profit within the company. So the worker might be working only 30 hours, but will be declared as 48 hours. Thank you. Good morning. I also come from Belgium, Lyonnais. I'm going to put a question to you in French. I don't know much about this economy of communion, but I have a question for you. How can enterprises remain with a positive result if they give a part of their profit to a project, knowing that other enterprises can invest their profit, all their profit, in their company? I haven't received an answer to this question yet. I think that the answer is part of the culture of giving. And this culture of giving has its own logic. it has the same effect as the culture of money. It is something difficult to understand for us. Oh, he's speaking in Spanish now instead of in Italian. So it is difficult to understand for us. We were all born in this culture telling us that things have to be done in such a way and nothing else is possible. And so I'm going to explain this to you. The logic of this culture of giving, when someone gives something, when someone gives us something, well, when we give, we receive, and we receive even more than what we have given. Sometimes we don't realize this. We don't see it at the same moment when we are giving something. We don't always see at that moment what we are going to receive, because we give something, we are centered on the well-being of the person, but by doing that, well, it has as a result to increase our resources. I'm going to give you a concrete example of this to explain this point. I had a competitor, an enterprise, and when I started my own business, this other business was my competitor. For each new client, we were in competition, and they were always reducing their prices so that I would have problems with my offers. And he's looking for his words in Italian. A second, please. And so, in the end, people prefer to work with me even if I wasn't cheaper than my competitors. And in the end, I was able to broaden the number of my clients, to increase this number. And one day I was at a dinner with this competitor, and my mistake was to let him look up at me. After a certain time, this competitor had financial problems, important financial problems. He was going through a real crisis, and one of his workers called me and asked me whether we could sell them a truck of cement, because they had problems, because providers didn't want to sell him cement any longer because he wasn't paying his bills. And I said, no problem, I can send you cement. And he said, but how much do I have to pay for this truck full of cement? And I told him, well, you are going to pay the same price as you would be paying the cement producers, providers. It was just to help him that I was doing this. So I can do it. I can just help you this time. But don't send me your invoice now, because I do not have enough money to pay for it. And now I haven't been paid for the last 3 months. I didn't get my salary. And I said, no problem, I'll send you the bill later on, or I'll send it now, but you'll pay me when you can pay me. And then my workers didn't understand what I was doing there. I was, in fact, sending cement to our competitor, a competitor who wanted to destroy us, and we were not earning any money on this cement we were sending him. But you know, I showed them that we could change things, that I could act differently. And after a while, I received a mail from Chile, and they were telling me that someone had seen the experience on the website of the Economy of Communion. He read about it, and after a certain time he discussed with other people, with a lady in the bar, and he did the same, discussing with this lady of a bar, and he reproduced the same experience with a competitor there, the bar opposite his bar. And so I think that in life you can do things, and with the money of that I'm earning, well, we can also use it differently. And you know, it's a very strong feeling. It's the culture of giving, and this is very powerful.
Voilà, on a encore un mot de conclusion de la part de Maxime.
Just Maxime, a word of conclusion, and then we'll have other questions to put to them, but during the breaks. So to go back to competitivity, I have a very short example here. In Paraguay, I was discussing with the commercial director of the company, and she was telling me, you know, we have to refuse clients, we have too many requests. And I said, but it's a luxury for you. And he said, I don't have a commercial department, marketing department, but I said, you know, I have 600 domestic workers working, and I was talking with these domestic workers, and one of them said, I have in fact attracted clients because somebody was asking for a job, but the 600 domestic workers knew that they couldn't find a job elsewhere, so they are the best marketing elements because they know that they can't find a job elsewhere, so they try to attract people. Yes, thank you to all of you for your questions and also for the answers given by our speakers. Thank you for the languages and for respecting the translators and waiting a second before talking, and it worked properly. So now I would like to ask Maximund from Belgium, working in the field of mental health, and he will be explaining the